Welcome to Mick and the Psychic, where we leave no stone unturned as we explore all things outside the apparent physical realm.
There is no intent to teach or make you believe or disbelieve anything. It is just a safe space to listen and explore with us.
So for this next episode, you have permission to open your heart and mind as you join myself and Xavier on this deep dive into the unknown. This is going to be a fantastic podcast because we have a very special guest that's probably going to take some listeners on into some new places and on new journeys. So I should introduce our wonderful guest. It is an internationally renowned psychic and clairvoyant from a young age. Solreta has long been aware of other dimensional realities and is also an ET UFO experiencer, best known as an ET communicator. We're certainly going to get into that. Having helped hundreds of people around the world connect with their ETs and interdimensional guides here to assist them on their mission on Earth. This shines light, clarity, and brings a sense of comfort, confirmation, and a renewed enthusiasm on their soul path. Having studied kinesiology, hypnotherapy, shamanic studies, Solreta holds an advanced diploma in health sciences. I have no idea what else she hasn't done. Solreta, welcome to our podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Xavier and Michael. It's a pleasure to be here.
This is just so exciting. I have no idea where to start. I do actually. So clairvoyant from a young age.
Yeah.
How did ETs come? Did ETs come at a young age for you? Was it an experience that you had, or was it something you always were aware of and didn't realize they were ETs? Like what?
Yeah, more the last thing that you said. So from a young age, the earliest I sort of remember is around age 4. So waking up to ET contact experiences. And, this is where I find hypnotherapy such a vital tool in helping recover some of those memories. So some of the experiences that I remember, or, times that I was frightened as a child, frightened of the unknown. When you can label something, sometimes it's easier to navigate through what it is that you're experiencing. So it really helped me to, I guess, drop and decode so many years of fear as a child, through parents saying, oh, it's imagination, like what you're seeing, it's not really there, or different things like that. But for me, getting into later age as a teen, I was waking up with physical marks on my body. Even, when I was married with children, years ago, woke up to my clothes coming on backwards, or like waking up to things on a pile on the floor with marks on my body. So yeah, it very much can be a physical experience, but for a lot of my experience, because I am clairvoyant, a lot of it is more in what you would say spirit or astral realm. So it might be that your energy body, or what we would call the car body in ancient Egypt, is what's interacting on the higher planes and dimensions. So for me, it was ET contact. And when I look into it now, and I look into the regression side of things, it was that they were teaching me about my gifts. And I would say I'm more of what you would say would be in the category of ET hybrid. So I don't feel 100% human in a way. I do kind of more lean towards English feeling like a second language. For me, the language of energy is more like a first language, which is more, I guess, how a lot of the other dimensional ETs work, is more, empathy, more clairsentience, clear feeling, communicating on a heart-to-heart basis. So for me, coming down into this world, it feels quite foreign. It feels, I'm sure that a lot of other starseeds out there will relate to feeling like you've been dropped off on another planet, and that this place just does not make sense. War and just people not being nice to each other. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So is that why you studied health and all those human things? It's not like you're studying stuff from a spiritual level. You're studying like what's going on down here.
Yeah. I want to know as much as I can in this lifetime about the human experience. And, sometimes that's hard. feeling like, you know, coming in from another reality and living in a human avatar body, because I see it as we're souls that are driving this physical temple or this avatar. And so I see the soul's energy connect into the brain, and the brainstem runs down through the vagus nerve. You know, our nervous system is kind of that that ply between both worlds. So not only do we pick up on information, whether it's energetic or physical or emotional, that goes back to the soul. So like, you know, the soul's always learning, taking in different things, but then the soul often has, whether it's, you know, awareness of other multidimensional realities or other past lives. So we kind of can bring that in and filter it into this physical experience. So it's like, I would say like the hand is a perfect example of an oversoul. So we would have like this earth life, maybe life on Pleiades. It's kind of, I guess it all comes under the category, or is better explained through quantum physics. So if we look into, you know, our aura, it's a photonic light field that is just outside of our visual spectrum. So people that are clairvoyant or that train themselves to see auras can see into that visual spectrum. It's just like, you know, ultraviolet energy, microwave energy is just outside that visual spectrum. So I believe that we're all psychic, that we're all have the abilities to be clairvoyant. A lot of us have that from childhood. And for me, it just never went away. It was just something that was always there, very, very strong. It was just as much a part of my world as the physical senses.
Did you have to learn all this as you grew up, or is this something that you knew as a child? Because you're saying you were quite scared as a child. So was it just...
Yeah. So for me, that was actually a gift when I look at it now.
Okay.
So having that fear, having that that stubbornness to, you know, no, I really am seeing something, kind of like that conviction to the world that I was taking it around me on an energy level. Yeah, I think that was vital in forming me not letting go of those senses, because most people let go of them or stop seeing auras around age 2. If they haven't been shut down by 2, it's usually, you know, before that bridging of the gap about age 7 or 9. So for me, there was a blessing in having that fear. It was a catalyst. Yeah, but I really had to learn what I would say is how to translate the language. So for me, color, numbers, symbols, whether they're esoteric or occult, or whether they're built on sacred geometry, all hold energy, all hold meaning. So when I'm receiving these on a clairvoyant level or clairsentient, or whether I'm hearing things coming from, you know, other realms, to me, this is understanding and reading quantum energy.
Sure. So that's like a language.
Yeah.
These sorts of, so those geometric shapes or whatever they are, they're like a language for that energy exchange, or rather than words.
Yeah, so just how we would translate Spanish to English, except the only difference is when we're translating from quantum, it's more that we have to let go of the mental level, more that we have to, you know, get out of the mind. So what would be, you know, in Spanish, hola, into English, hello. It's more that we're understanding what we're feeling, what we're experiencing. I call it a synesthesia, or a blending of the senses. Mm-hmm. That's sort of that you're receiving information and data that comes in on a multitude of senses. So for me, and this is where it sort of gets a little bit woo and a bit weird in the ET side of things. Speaking light language to me feels like a first language, and English is second. So the way I describe it is when we speak light language, and there's many people all over the world that speak it, something that I've had in me from, you know, I remember back as early as age 4, having this other language, and I knew that it was not kind of normal to speak that. And so a lot of us keep this within until we find others that you know that you can be comfortable around. But this language is more of what I would call a telepathic or empathic language. So the certain sounds and frequencies actually impact upon the emotional body or impact upon the quantum field. So it's that on a quantum level, you might be seeing symbols or, you know, different visions or different feelings. Whereas when we speak English and we speak words, we might feel certain emotions, but we don't get that full embedding on the senses that happens. So that's sort of a way of how the language is different when we translate.
How do you find keeping yourself grounded when you're feeling like light language and all that connection is your first language and your main, like what you're supposed to be, what you're here for, and then you're into having this human experience in a physical body. For myself, I feel like sometimes, and so much is resonating with me when you're speaking, I feel like I always get asked like, well, have you meditated on that? Have you connected with that? And I kind of, it's not laziness. I just feel like I'll get taken away and disconnect from the day-to-day things that I need to do too much if I tap in more often. And I feel like I'll lose myself, and I'll lose, like I've got things to do as a mother, and I'll just go off and never come back. So I try not to do channeling and things too much when I'm not working, for example. So yeah, how do you manage that? I'd love some advice.
So I guess if I was to go back to look at my high school report and primary school report for that matter, it would talk a lot about daydreaming. But really, I was just sort of, looking out the window, connecting to other realms, other places, checking out the teacher's aura on the whiteboard, because we were lucky to grow up with whiteboards in high school at least. But yeah, the way that I feel, I think kids are great at keeping balanced and keeping us into the day-to-day realities, and, animals too. I find are really good at, having fur babies, keeping us in this reality, having to have someone to get up to or to cook and clean for and look after. It definitely keeps us in this physical reality. So I'm, I guess, quite lucky in a way that I had kids quite young. So my oldest is 21 now. And I think, having kids at such a young age, it helped me keep that foot in each world. But I think having the interest in natural medicine and really understanding the body and understanding the brain. I really feel sort of a foot in each world. But a lot of the time it's sort of living it through the eyes of an avatar, if that makes sense. So it's not that you always feel that you can handle the heat of what it means to be in human experience. Sometimes the emotions can be quite heavy, or like understanding the human thought process and things is just a whole nother thing. So I find sometimes when I feel like floating out of this world, it's more trying to make sense of the world. But yeah, with the channeling side of things, it's just, I think because I've always had it, it's like a light switch. So when I was younger, I couldn't turn it off. So I think learning how to turn it off, or how to really come into body a bit more, has given me more of an anchor. But then to switch it on, it might just simply be shuffling some cards. Exactly. It might just be, closing my eyes for a second, or it might just be, I call it sort of like going into, there's a different mind, or whether it's the quantum mind that I step into. So it's just choosing which computer to operate.
Yes, I like that. Yeah, I don't have to do the whole routine now. Like when I teach, like the whole connecting, it's just an instant bang, you're there, and then bang. Yeah. So I know some people would they have a hard time. They're thinking, how do I switch it off? They get worried that they couldn't, and then they might drain them and things like that. So yeah, just sort of you figure it out.
You find out what works for you. And I think this is where it's good to talk about protection as well, and just it doesn't matter if you're going about your day-to-day life, or whether it's, doing readings and things, it's always good to have protection. And I've got, there's a couple of little tools that I've got here that I like to use for protection. So on an energy level, because, working, doing readings 5 days a week, and that's my job. So, I need to make sure that I'm not getting drained of my own vital energy and vital resources. I know Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet, he spoke about, psychics and people that work with healing, like you guys do, needing to up their minerals. So, I try and make sure that I eat really well. So I eat plant-based, vegan diet. I'm celiac, so I eat gluten-free. So I really try and make sure that I'm consuming live foods and getting a lot of biophoton energy, taking in a lot of what I would call light energy. So a biophoton is like a packet of light. So the sun's energy comes down into the plants, and then we eat the plants and we take on that energy. So it's essentially filling our bodies with light. So that helps protect our energy. It helps to activate psychic abilities. But yeah, using little things like flower essences. So I've got hornbeam, century, and elm. These are good little ones that I might put in my water bottle, have a sip along the day when I'm working with clients. But yeah, definitely putting up a a golden shield of light as well. And what's funny is when my clients do that, like if they visualize, and even if I haven't met them before, I'll be like, do you visualize gold around yourself, or do you visualize this? You can see it in the aura, you can see it in that photonic light field. So what we think, what we project, we create.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to show up on a, on a photo, but it's there in our photonic light field.
Okay, so this is kind of things that you can see outside of what people could normally see. Obviously, I know personally, I don't walk around, I can't see light coming off people that isn't maybe a reflection or something else.
Yeah.
So is this something that everyone has an aura and everyone emits some kind of light, whether they recognize what it is or not?
Yeah, so everyone, everything. So all of the different kingdoms, whether it be the animal, mineral, human kingdom, plant kingdom, fungi kingdom, because I think they're a whole different kingdom of their own. They're quite conscious. Yeah, God, I could get so ADHD sidetracked with so many conversations.
So what does it mean though to have that? So I mean, you can see that you can see those. What value does that bring? Like, how does it help?
Good question.
Yeah, so I guess I can describe. So for me, I think that as society and with our education system and the powers that be that kind of run the world have perhaps indoctrinated this natural innate ability out of us, whether it's putting through like regimented learning, teaching us to not imagine, to not be in the creation world. And that's why I really love alternative schools like Steiner and Waldorf and things like that keep people keep kids in the play aspect, or they will meditate and set up an energy space for the kids in the playgroup or the kindergartens. So for me, if I'm to physically describe what I see, there's two different types of auric vision that I have. So like I can see the energy field around you right now. You've got a lot of turquoise aqua color with some pink, and then there's some green that's further out. So depending on where the auric colors are placed, so with the blue sort of aqua turquoise color you've got, it's quite close to your etheric field. So there's something coming in that's connected to do with past lives that's coming up. So it might be a skill or a technique or a pattern that you've had in a past life that's sort of like right here at the moment that your higher self might be, trying to introduce you to, or it could sometimes be that question or that feeling of, I keep like holding back on something, but I want to do this. So a lot of the time we'll see in our auric field where not only our quantum potential can open up, or where we can quantum jump. So that's what I see in an aura, is where we can get from A to B. So with the beautiful pink and green that you've got, it's like a really balanced heart chakra energy that comes in with this. So yeah, that's sort of one way to describe it, but it's like a soft glowing light. It's like someone shining a torch on you is how it physically looks. So you'll see an etheric kind of glow, and you'll see guides and different beings come in the same way. And sometimes with some of them, you'll see them come more into a physical density. If they're coming in from different realms, they're able to increase the density and look a little bit more solid. So this is sometimes where you'll see beings pop in and out of people's auras, or you'll see a flash of light. And when we tell ourselves that that's vital information, so say, for example, some of the gorgeous listeners might be saying, oh, I've seen like flashes of light. When you get that experience, just tell yourself and sort of be in that present moment, because what it does, it builds new neural networks in the brain, saying that you want to take in this vital information, that you want your brain to notice that extrasensory perception. And so the other way that I see auras is with the third eye, or with the Ajna chakra. So what it is, on a very physical level, we have these little crystals, magnetite crystals, or some people talk about them possibly being calcium crystals, in the pineal gland. So these are piezoelectric. So what this means is that in the center of our brain, we have what's called a transducer. So that's able to take information from the quantum field, and that internal part of us can make sense of this information and relay it to the brain, or relay it as an impression, also connecting into the nervous system too. But what it looks like on a physical level, I've actually got my anatomy book right here.
Oh, thank goodness. Me too, but I'll let you bring yours out. That's fine.
Mine might be bigger. It's quite a large one.
I'm joking. I don't have an anatomy book here.
I was getting excited.
I know. I'm sorry.
So yeah, just to jump into the anatomy of it, which will really show how everyone has this. Like, I'm not unique in that way. So when we look into this beautiful photo that almost looks like testicles, and we look right to the center, there's a tuning fork around a little pea-sized thing.
Okay.
And
yeah.
so what that means is that we're giant tuning forks, and we're able to not only tune into information or psychically tune into a client, or whether it's into the cards, because I read with psychometry, which is picking up the energy of the cards, and then I flip them over to verify what spirit said. And the information I've picked up. So yeah, if we can really think that we are these little walking tuning forks that are going around receiving information, when we know how to kind of activate this piezoelectric quality of the pineal gland, we see movies in the mind. So sometimes the light that you see in your mind can be more blinding than the light that you get in the physical.
I was going to ask you that because I see it all in here. So when people ask, they feel like they're supposed to see with their physical eyes, and not everybody does. They see it in their head, and then they get confused between imagination and channeling. So I see it like a movie, but not with physical eyes. But you see both. It sounds like.
Yeah, I see both, and it's able to give me like I guess I'll look at it with physical eyes first to pick up, vital information in the aura. And then spirit might be showing me messages at the same time. So it's like I can tune into different stations. But I love it that you said, linked it with imagination, because it's a muscle. So the more that we practice creative visualization or working with imagination, the more it builds our auric muscles. And if we look at it from the anatomy of the eyes and how we're actually seeing auras, or how we're tuned into that bandwidth, it's to do with the cones and rods in your eye. So it's actually the peripheral side, or the outside part of our vision. So when you're starting to learn to see auras, and I also have taught this in workshops, I'm putting together one at the moment that will be online, because we're in that, I guess, climate of where we can't travel as much. But what I teach with my students is to pick up on that peripheral information, to tell the brain when we see it that that's vital. And what happens is you start to get it not just coming up from the sides, you start to see things front on. So we're able to kind of expand that bandwidth. But yeah, we literally have cones and rods to detect this auric light.
Okay, so it's practice. It's something, you've obviously done hypnotherapy. I'm a hypnotherapist. One of the things I have with some people where they say they can't see anything, and sometimes in hypnotherapy you feel stuff, you don't see it. It's always different for different people. Yeah. But with helping them train their mind's eye, I'll get them to imagine themselves at their front door and imagine all the details in the front door. And people, because I've been to their front door so many times, they can easily imagine it, imagine the color and the key and all that sort of stuff. And that helps. I walk them through their house and then take them to places that they wouldn't be able to see, but they can imagine seeing. And that helps kind of build that muscle around, I can see things with my mind's eye. So you're saying that with training people, which is new to me, so people can learn to see auras, you're trying to say, or is it just some people can?
No, so they can. And one of my favorite experiences was actually training someone who was blind in one eye. And the cool thing was, a lot of this is dropping our perception of what we think reality is. So if we look at it as we're living in a simulated reality, and maybe the energy side is what we would pick up as subtle code, or, like slight background colors. So we're really just saying that background information we're wanting to take on as vital information. So we're just changing the settings, or
like the filter.
Yeah, we're just changing a couple of settings, adjusting a couple of widgets. But yeah, one of my gorgeous students, he actually started to see through people, and it's something that I've had as well. I had one experience sitting at the Hare Krishnas as a student, and someone came and sat right in front, and because I'm so visual, so usually your psychic senses will follow what your more dominant physical sense is. Yes. So I'm sitting in the audience wanting to watch the beautiful speaker that had traveled from overseas, and I'm like, if only I could just, see through someone. All of a sudden, I could see through the shoulder, And I sat for 45 minutes watching this talk, being able to see the speaker the entire time. Now, whatever it took to kind of like drop that, I felt into like a relaxed, more theta state. So I think when we're in a theta brainwave, we're more conducively opening to the psychic world. And I think that possibly was what happened also when I was doing auric training with one of my students, that his perception or his feedback information, whether he was tapped more into the pineal and the third eye and was able to see things through people from this point of view. Funny, the language, isn't it? Point of view. But yeah, you know, we were holding up fingers behind people. He could see right through things. So I think there's so much that we don't understand yet from a scientific level on how this all works, but we're kind of back engineering it and playing with the fun part first, and the science is getting worked out later.
That's so cool. Like when people hold up the cards and you can guess know what's on the other side. I remember doing that at Science Works or some museum with one of my stepkids, and I got everyone right. They were flicking the cards. It's a scientific kind of testing game, and they couldn't believe I got it all right. And I was like, that is really cool.
So you would have made it into that nightclub on the movie Constantine, where there's the bouncer at the door and he's got the cards, and then you have to say what the cards were on the other side. Favorite movie.
Oh, I'm going to have to watch that again.
I
was wondering if it's vibration or you can actually, it's
one of my favorite movies, but yeah, you had to read the card. That's how he let you in or didn't let you in.
Wow, very cool.
Pretty cool, but not real, just a movie. But yeah, amazing. Sorry,
Might be real.
I'm bringing fiction in here. I don't want to confuse
He's in all
people.
the cool movies.
People listening will be going,
in the Matrix now.
Is Constantine real? Probably not.
Can you tell us, Solreta, more about, and we're saying your name right? Is it Solreta or Solreta?
Rita, yeah. So it's Solreta. It's like a little syllable.
Love it. Better get it right. So, because I have that issue all the time with my own name.
I can imagine.
We'd love to know. So, I want to go back to ETs. And find out. Like, we have so many questions. Don't even know where to start, but we'd love to know. I don't know. How do you know you're talking to ETs? Are we all ETs?
Good question.
I have a million questions. What can you tell us?
I love those too. You've got 10 minutes to answer both.
So I guess, I'll start from, having read for thousands of people as well. And what I find is that those of us that are starseeds or identify with not feeling 100% like we're
Can you start with star seeds? I don't think you can drop star seeds with no context. I'm so sorry.
For the people
those of us that are star seeds and someone says, oh, I'm a Pisces. So is that similar?
Okay. So I'll go into a bit more of a description around that. So if we look at the analogy of from that point of creation, whether it's the planets or the realms, depending on which way we want to look at it, star seeds are like each seed is a soul. So if we look at souls that are incarnating predominantly on Earth, they would be more, feeling at home on Earth and, maybe in nature, things like this. So for star seeds, they've perhaps had more incarnations on off-world experiences or more in multidimensional experiences. So quite often not understanding how to occupy a 3D corporeal body, usually just used to being an energy form, not having to deal with this density. So that's what it's like from a physical level. So on a spiritual or a psychic level, they're more kind of like attuned into feelings or into empathy, into emotions. So they tend to be able to walk into a room and pick up on the vibe of the place.
Picking up more subtle energies in the room rather than what's physically there or what's being said.
Yeah. So
it's subtle to the star seed, but it's subtle to everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What's going on? Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes with the star seeds, they can have not just the physical. Sometimes you can be a star seed incarnated in a physical human earth container. Sometimes, or avatar is another way to describe it because it paints that vision from the movie. So sometimes your avatar might be more, manipulated, or you might have a whole genetic back history of your parents having experiences or grandparents having experiences. And even if we look to what our beautiful original elders say here in Australia. You know, they say that we were seeded from the Pleiades. So some of us have more memories or more star codes and star genes than others. So yeah, I feel more sort of like on the ET side of things. And it's quite often that these sorts of people like myself have more of the abilities, and like it's Xavier as well, that we are more naturally wired for this. And what we also know and find is, you know, some of the shamanic cultures tend to have a higher amount of these genes. So you find with psychic abilities, or whether it's receiving premonitions or other, you know, etheric or psychic data, it's, you know, quite strong in the Irish genes, Native American, Aboriginal genes, African genes, quite strong in Scandinavian genes as well. So yeah, we've got a lot of Scandinavian heritage in my family, a lot of English, Irish, and Scottish.
Yeah.
And even when and even when my parents did the DNA test, we even had a small percentage of Islander DNA as well. So that's also like another factor when it comes to gene codes in relation to abilities.
Cool.
Yeah, I always thought the Irish were aliens. So this is good. So you're kind of confirming that the shout out to all my Irish friends.
We should.
So for that, like a starseed is someone that's spent probably many more lives on around, like getting around the planets and things like that.
Yeah, so often you have a soul mission that sometimes is tuned to missions that you've had in different lifetimes. So when we jump back to like the hand representing the oversoul, so if we look at this from quantum physics as string theory, which is now one of the popular beliefs, or is, I'm not sure if it still is, I would have to check. But back when I looked at it, it was still one of the popular beliefs in quantum physics. And if we look at perhaps that we're living this multidimensional life where we're receiving, whether it's different information unconsciously or for starseeds more consciously. So I remember off-world lifetimes and experiences and see where perhaps my soul was driven on a certain mission. And I see how that correlates to what I'm creating and what I'm doing on this earth plane. There's a marriage between those two soul aspects. So if all those strings go back to one soul essence or one oversoul, does that sort of make sense of it a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. The oversoul is the higher self, so I like how you say oversoul. So that's why I'm thinking that's the same thing.
Yeah. So it connects to that version of us that lives in Pleiades, or that version of us that lives in, you know, Atlantean times or medieval times. So we can draw on that information from that soul's wisdom. So it's essentially, if we look at things from a simulated reality, and if we look at just how we operate, you know, with having many windows open on a computer or doing many tasks at once, it sort of speeds up productivity. So essentially, when we look at it from that point of view, the soul is learning more vital learning lessons and gathering more information at once, rather than just going from a linear perspective, which would be more 2D. We're looking at it from a 4 or 5D point of view.
Wow.
Okay. It's interesting. I see a lot of similarities. I grew up in a very Christian family, so there were a lot of things with the Bible, and a lot of the really fun bits of the Bible are those really interesting things where you just go, wow. Talking about angels walking amongst men, which means men and women, and that you wouldn't know because they look the same. Talking about speaking in tongues that people don't understand. I feel like you're talking about the same kind of thing. Could there be truth to, you know, some of this stuff in the Bible as from a different context of like what you're talking about? Could angels be, I don't know, star seeds, or, you know, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so having not grown up with a religious background, so I've got, I guess, an untainted view on things in a way. I was lucky that, what I was seeing and experiencing, I didn't put religious context on it. But now when I hear about different things, and it was only maybe a year or two ago that I heard about them speaking that language in the Bible. I was on a show back in 2005, actually, called Speaking in Tongues, and they were talking about it. But what I didn't realize was the way it was worded, I think, in the Bible, that there was those that spoke this other language, and they would speak it, and then other people would go on to speak it. And that's what I've noted from light languages. Sometimes someone will hear me speak and they're like, oh, I feel like it's activated something within me. And when we know that it's an empathic language that's connected to higher spiritual aspects of who we are, or otherworldly realms and different things, there is a very angelic context that comes through with it, or feeling. But yeah, perhaps like with the angelic side of it, it was like higher dimensional beings coming in. And what I love about technology is that we're starting to get photos of these supernatural occurrences that are perhaps not so supernatural. Maybe it's just about expanding our bandwidth.
So then how
So
do you
interesting.
fit in with all of that and who we are, and is that another life body or not a body, just a spirit that they're having experiencing? Have we all had a life as an ET, or is it just like a soul, because like a spirit connection that they're just channeling with us? How does it work?
Yeah. So I guess it's the vision that I'm getting shown, because whenever I'm talking, I'm always getting like information and things, especially with questions, which is so great. Your
That's
questions
Xavier as well. That's fine. I'm used to it now.
Oh, cool. So yeah, what Spirit's showing me, the way to explain it is, if we look at linear time being that two-dimensional concept, and we look at it in, perhaps say from what we're taught in school, which would be the globe situation, and we're taught, about space, and we're taught about all these different things. And what I'm sort of shown, I guess, is more through, like, I guess I would call it like more of a 4 or 5G. So to me, it's not that like we're in a linear situation. This is why we can manifest and have things show up, in quantum reality, or things that we put out in quantum reality can show up in the physical. So when I'm looking at ETs or different things coming in or having different interactions, sometimes they'll appear to come through or emerge from what seems like a veil. So I've got, just have a look. I've got some aura drawings just here as well, to see if there's any that sort of resonate what I'm talking about. Oh, here's one.
I really have a feeling you've got a very different desk to me. I don't have aura drawings.
There's a lot of color. There's a lot of things.
We love our aura drawing. We have Daniel and I have one Solreta did, and we love it.
Oh, thank you. And I've got an angelic one. So here's someone who had an angelic aura, and yeah, so they'll constantly get.
So it's like a drawing of a silhouette of a person with like certain color, their specific lights that are radiating off it.
Yeah. So then I'll explain like the meaning of that, in a session, and really go into whether it's, an ET that's showing up. So for me, it's almost like I'm seeing this translucent curtain with a face sort of peering through. Sometimes they'll be more physical, more solid. So the way that I look at what experience we're in terms of simulated reality or whatever, is I look at it more as a realm. And when we look back to ancient writings and different things, they spoke about realms. We look into Vedic astrology and in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Bible, and they talk about, God created the waters and it was separated from a filament. Now, the filament to me kind of looks like a realm. Some of the UFOs I've filmed look like they're jellyfish. In Italy, we call them abani, which is a biological entity. So some of these UFOs that we're seeing are perhaps more biological or carry a certain light frequency to them. So for anyone who wants to see only the physical ones, I've got a couple of videos on my YouTube channel.
Wow.
But yeah, I really sort of think we're living in a realm, and different things can come in and out of this density. And I think the current world and the way that we know it in a physical sense, to me, I feel that we've been kept, just like our minds are being kept in school and in the education system. I feel that there's a much more expanded side to this world compared to what we're being shown. I think we've been limited, whether it's talking about 10% brain capacity or talking about, what we're living on.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've got a mate that names all of his cars, and I think if his car was biological, and like a living thing, then he wouldn't be as crazy naming his car if it was like a biological spaceship, I suppose.
That's cool.
They're forgiven to name their spaceships because it's probably a living being. That's interesting. So I had a question about the light language as well.
Oh, yeah.
When you're a kid, you, who did you get to talk to in this light language? Did you have beings that would come down that you could talk with, or was it just you found yourself talking and then didn't understand what it was?
Yeah, so for me, when I speak light language, it's like having a direct plug-in to higher self, or to that version of me that's connected to source. So I actually feel this golden frequency and light come into me, and I feel like I'm not disconnected, if that makes sense. Oops, I'm just having Zoom things come up.
It's okay.
So yeah, I feel more connected to myself, and I actually feel more of my soul frequency and energy running through my body. So having that experience and knowing that at 4 years old, we don't often have the vocabulary to explain what it is, so I was very lucky also that my guides were there very young on from a protective point of view, saying, don't talk about this. So my impression as a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old going to kinder was, don't talk about it, you'll get locked up in a crazy home. And that wasn't from my parents or anything, because I don't remember telling them about this, but there was this innate protective essence coming from my guides, knowing or sort of empathically giving me the feeling and the words to not speak about it. It was only really when I was, I think, 21 that I started to talk about it in public talks that I was giving, connecting with others that were coming up to me going, thank you so much for doing your talk. Because this would have been back in, 2021, I think. Oh, sorry, 2001. Oh my God, time's gone fast. So yeah, back when I was helping with the vibrational medicine college, I met others that could also speak light language. So we could communicate to each other. We were all around similar age and had similar experiences growing up with the ET side of things. And yeah, there's some people that are translators. There's some people like myself that speak or understand multiple different languages, because it is understood empathically. So if we're able to kind of drop that context of the mind. So one example of how to drop that, the mind and the analytical, logical mind is, and Xavier would know this as well from reading, is that you take on that first impression or that first vision, or it might be, say you're watching channel 7 and channel 9 flashes up and you only see it for half a point of a second. That is the vital information that we're really wanting to gain with this. So yeah.
Shout out to Channel 9. That was a good plug for Channel 9. I'm sorry. I knew what you meant though. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know.
And that's it's a similar thing with hypnotherapy, where if often when I have someone say, I don't know if I'm imagining this, but then I know that that's absolutely not imagination. It's something that's come through, because you're aware of it and you're questioning it. Then it's probably Otherwise, you just imagine it and say it.
And what a cool job, getting to see that that unusual aspect that most people don't get to see for everyday work too, getting to see those far off lands or those unusual things and to learn from it. Like I learn so much from reading for my clients. I'll see different things every single day or learn different things that I've never learned before. Like I had a client the other day, and what I saw was them in a past life being taken from one land to another. But the weird thing was, it started out, and I'm looking at it from, because whatever I've got in this filing cabinet of a brain of mine will be referenced or pulled up, from the guides trying to communicate something to me. Or yeah.
So you can relate to it and know what they mean, because it's
exactly. Yes. Yeah. And it's so cool that you understand that too, and know what it feels like, because it's quite funny. So they were pulling out information to do with this client having a past life and having amazing, like incredible psychic abilities in this past life as a child. And what I saw was her in a situation, I would call it like a souk. So, like in the Middle Eastern markets and things like that, they'll have spice markets and things. And to me, it looked like something out of Star Wars. It looked like it was happening on another world. But then I saw her get taken into what looked like to be medieval time. And I'm like, is this two lifetimes? Have they showed me? And they showed me what looked like it was going from one realm into another.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen that kind of thing before. So it's kind of stretched and opened a broader perspective on not just like the non-linear nature of these different lifetimes, but to me, it looked like she was living off-world, but she wasn't. She was just outside our earth realm in what we would classify as a medieval time. And in that medieval lifetime, they were acquiring kids with psychic abilities to utilize to help build kingdoms, to remote view or psychically gain advancement over other kingdoms. So it just learned something new every single day. It's quite fascinating. Yeah.
That's my favorite way to learn as well. Like, not everything I do, I learn by a class or a course. I learn with clients and they show me weird things, or during my own meditations. Like one of my own past lives that I had with Daniel, we've had many of those together, clearly. It was, I got told in my head it was Scotland, and I was being taken away from him. We're being ripped apart. We were lovers, I wanted to be together, but I was being like some kind of royalty. I was being put in a ship and taken because I had to go to another country to marry someone in particular. It was Scotland, but all the colors were wrong. The ocean wasn't like, the sky was like, the grass was purple, and the sky, like all the colors were backwards compared to Earth. They told me it was Scotland and it was still Earth, but the colors were wrong. So it wasn't this Earth, it was like another layer of Earth or another, so I was learning about how many, I don't know if you know about this or how it works, and it's not even definite to me, but it's like 9 or something Earths. We're all at different stages, and some of them, they might look like different colors, and that's just a whole another thing. I thought, what is this?
You gave me goosebumps when you're talking about you, and it's still here. It's cool.
Must be true. When we get goosebumps, it's confirmation of
truth bumps.
Truth bumps. This is one of the problems I have with having 2 psychics on a podcast. My light's flashing and going crazy, and it never does.
Didn't notice.
You people wreck electronic stuff, but that's okay. I won't.
Oh my gosh! Always get extended warranty if you're a psychic.
I replaced my first light.
Oh my god! Yeah.
That's going to be a tagline, I think, for this podcast. Extend your warranty if you're psychic, and if they get nothing else from this podcast, they've at least learnt that really handy practical tip.
It's very practical advice.
Now, that is a very, very deep insight there about extended warranties, but I want to go a little bit more shallow with a question now about what is the difference then between like spiritual entities and extraterrestrial. So what's the difference between interdimensional and extraterrestrial? And do they both exist because they're different things, or is it the same thing we're experiencing differently? Like what? I don't get it. What?
Yeah. So I guess that just like how we exist in a corporeal human 3D form in physical, and we experience, sight, taste, touch, is actually quite a blessing to be in a physical body. So there's a lot of excitement for those that are having this human experience. And there are ETs that are also in physical body. So some people have full-blown ET contact experiences with physical ETs. And some will have, and usually sometimes it's the men that will get those sensory experiences to come into awakening. Not always, there's some women that have them as well. And that's where you're left with marks on the body or left with physical implants, things that I've had as well. But if they can reach you, some of the higher dimensional ETs or higher dimensional beings, because they're only ET to us, in a way, the same as we're ET to them. So a lot of them will reach out to us energetically or psychically, or more from like an astral etheric point of view. So we exist, I guess, in many different forms as they do. But we're able to pick up and receive information from these various different realms too. If you look at it as sort of like a stepstone or a ladder, it's just, I guess my mind, even though I've done this since a young age, is just constantly learning, constantly expanding as to what kind of reality. And for me, the curtain method is the easiest way to describe what it is that I see, hear, and feel. And sometimes you'll be able to point out, like in the room that I'm in now, I can see a beautiful golden figure outline. Even back when I was in college, I could point out, different beings that may be standing in a room, and other people are like, yeah, I can see like a glowing light, or I can see what looks to me a humanoid silhouette. Even when I'm giving talks in the physical, which has been a bit different over the last 2 years, but sometimes there'll be beings that are standing, and they might be 10 feet tall at the back of the hall. And sometimes you point them out, others will see them too. So they don't always exist in the physical density. And it's much easier to not exist in the physical density. The amount of energy that it takes, and also from an ET or an orb perspective, because orbs are sometimes, whether it's a hybrid using an orb or whether it's a nature spirit using an orb, sometimes they're a buffer or a protection from our physical reality, because they output of what it is to be in this earth realm in terms of the heavy energies and emotions that are not so natural to starseeds, like whether it's anger, aggression, different density things that really kind of like anchor you back to the earth. Not her as a personality, but the human experience on earth. They do kind of want to buffer from that. They can get tired, but sometimes some of them are such high frequency or such high level energy too, that it's a lot for our human body or our biology to take. And we see that sometimes in kids that are perhaps not neurotypical, or they're more neurodiverse in their thinking or in the way that their brains are wired. So whether it's, ADHD or autism or different things, a lot of these beautiful kids have so much high frequency energy that the signal gets jammed when we're plugging it into this human avatar and this nervous system.
It's exactly how I've been shown it too, that
Yeah,
I know of these things, but they're just so much going on. So learning to ground and connect more would help them the most. Maybe meditation and some things like that, rather than filling them with medication, might actually
definitely.
help
And
them
some of them,
handle what's going on.
yeah, and some of the beautiful kids that I've spoken with are fully telepathic. They talk to you mind to mind and describe things without needing to verbally speak. So some of them are non-verbal, but there's such a high form of intelligence that's going on in there. But they just, unfortunately, it's the wiring is a lot harder. But my beautiful friend, Dr. Lana Moreau, who was on my YouTube show, we did an episode talking about, rewiring the brain. And she works with some of these beautiful kids to help ease that flow and to get their brain to self-heal. And it can be literally a 2-minute session, and you might do 6 to 20 sessions, but within 2 minutes, you can see a whole difference. And it's like that fire or that storm calm, so that the kids actually verbally and physically can eloquently express themselves. It's mind-blowing what Dr. Lana Moreau was doing at it's called Think. She's over in Austin, Texas. But yeah, there's a show that I've got that I highly recommend, because I know there'll be parents out there, and the parents might be a bit more geared towards our thinking and be able to get the help for their children.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's definitely, I can imagine some people as they're listening to this or watching this and vigorously writing a name down so they can go look it up. And
yeah, and she's just a gorgeous person as well, just the most pure intentions with helping kids. And even seeing some of her videos on other channels or on Gaia TV with Regina Meredith, it shows the before and after videos of some of these kids, and it's fully life-changing. So you can imagine applying that to some of us as adults, and how we can hack the brain and become a bit more limitless, or perhaps tune into our highest potential. It's just so exciting where science is going.
Wow.
It seems like there's different stages as well at different times of our life, like what sort of the kids experience, and obviously as we grow older, and anyone would agree to this, with a certain amount of conditioning, our playfulness sometimes goes, or opportunities go, because we develop belief systems and things. Did you find that throughout stages of your life, you were opened up to different things? I mean, you mentioned 2001, where you started talking about your the light language. That would have been the same time after you would have had your first child as well. Was it being a mum? Did that open things up or change things?
It's interesting. I'm just thinking back to that time. I think with all of my pregnancies, like with my 3 kids, I definitely felt a pause that I put over a protective shield when it came to using my psychic abilities. So I would say that it was more, she got to an age where I felt that, you know, there was a bit of distance or a bit of, excuse me, where I felt that, you know, I could go and work, or I could go, you know, into college, things like that, and help out with the teaching. And so I was able to kind of like open up that area of interest. It's like putting my job on pause to focus on motherhood. And then when you go back in, it's like, oh, I'm into this whole world again. And, you know, exciting to be around like other colleagues or other friends and students that operate in the same way. And it was just, I don't know whether it was the astrology of the time back then, because there's some crazy alignments, just like there is now too. So I think, you know, if you're open to upgrades and you're open to, you know, meeting others, and you put that out there in the quantum field, I think I'd been putting out for it when I really think back onto that question, was that I'd felt disconnected from myself and on a spiritual or a soul level, because I was dedicating so much time to being a mum, and a full-time mum as well. Yeah, so it was really exciting to like just get into those conversations. And I think some people are placed on our path, whether it's a karmic or a soul contract or agreement too. So it was probably like a combination of a few things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did any of it change when you became a mum? Did you find, because I mean, a lot of people talk about motherhood bringing on a whole lot of different things. I don't have experience in that personally, so that's why I'm asking. Did that change much, or was it just more the pause because of the humanly duties you needed, and then a reinvigoration?
Yeah, so I think it was more pausing it while I was pregnant. I felt like an energetic need to just protect. And it was probably, it was just, and I've talked to other people that work, you know, intuitive work as well, and some of them will do the opposite. They're like, no, I was like really open, but I just felt this innate need to protect my energy. So yeah, it depends on the person. To me at the time, that was what I felt really the right thing to do for me and for my baby. But yeah, just looking into how things have changed, I wouldn't put it down to motherhood in terms of, you know, the psychic side of things, even though we do definitely have that bond with our kids, especially when they're small. Like, you just anticipate or know exactly what they want. Sometimes even when it came to nightmares and different things, just having that sense of what might be happening, or me being able to look in their room and, oh yeah, there's something in there. No wonder why they had that bad dream.
Pretty cool skill to have.
Yeah, doing it. And all of a sudden your child just calms down, or spraying, you know, some protective frankincense and lavender, and having that intention, sending white or golden light into the room. And all of a sudden, so like, it is kind of a superpower in that way when it comes to being a mum, being able to see into the unseen realms when your kids are small, and teaching them a little bit about, you know, surround yourself in a golden bubble of light, and teaching them other forms of protection. My kids really didn't have nightmares or things like I did when I was a child. So I would say that, you know, if I could go back and be a child again, it would be amazing to know those things.
Yeah, I wish, I didn't learn any of this or realize I had these gifts until I was older and all my children were born. So I was in my 30s, early 30s. So I always wished or wondered how it would have been like being pregnant or having small children with the knowledge and connection I have now. So I haven't experienced it. So they're learning now. But yes, that's amazing that everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. Obviously, that's fine. They chose that way of learning later in life, and for myself too. But it would have been very cool to be able to tune in and know exactly like you explained.
It's so funny. So funny that you say that. I guess because to me it's normal to, you know, just always had this. So I don't really think about it if I hadn't have had it. So for me, the way I found out I was pregnant with my oldest daughter was my aura changed. And so, really bizarre story. I was sitting on the toilet and I saw all of these silver gossamer flicks, like silvery white sort of gold energy flicking around me. And I'm like looking, going, that's a lot of energy around me. And I'm like, oh my God, it's life force energy. Why is it so strong? And then I'm like, I'm pregnant. So yeah, to me, you know, I guess that would be to someone else like intuition, or, you know, it is kind of, a foot in each world. So it's really hard to think how I would live differently. So even with shutting things down, I would still get that kind of like vital energy, or I would feel in tune with my babies and things like that, or, pick their names through communication. And but just sort of, I guess it's more turning the volume down. Was more, how to shield.
Yeah. I love that a starseed pregnancy test is fireworks. That's so cool. It's just like, starseeds don't worry about like weeing on anything. It's just like when you're on the toilet having a wee, there will be fireworks around you, and that's when you know.
Yeah, and just so funny in that moment, just seeing the stars there and like coming into the reality.
Yeah, I can't say many women would have had that experience, but that's pretty cool. Like I can see for other people, I can see with the souls there, and I know you can do that too. Like you see it, or been able to tell. I had a client test me out one time. She found out she was pregnant, and I was doing her chakras, and I got to that chakra, and I went, seeing a baby, thinking of her, because you don't want to say you're pregnant just in case and don't know. Like, I don't know, like I didn't feel it was right to say, but I could sense it. So I went around, said it in a different way, and she's like, yes, I was waiting to see if you picked up on that. I'm like, oh Jesus, for me. I'm glad I got it right. So you can sense that now. So yeah, I wish I had had that. Cool. You get that intuition, like that mother's intuition, as they call it too, though.
Exactly.
The body. I knew I conceived every time. Like I felt it, but then wasn't sure. But I didn't know that is that mother's psychic.
And each of the, like, just even from my 3 kids, like each of the babies is so different. And they're older now, they're 21, 15 and 13. But each of them is so different in terms of like that energy coming in, when you are pregnant. Each of the pregnancies, each of the energies will be different. So some of them are like more physically present, and others, and will move a lot more, and they're like that out in the world now. But it's really, it's a fascinating experience, that journey through motherhood.
I love this subject. I just wasn't expecting that. That's great.
With the kid, like looking at kids growing up and seeing stuff in your room, kind of leads towards the question of sort of apparitions or ghosts, or whether or not they're beings from another place coming to visit. I mean, there's obviously a lot of things at play that maybe we don't understand. Is it then a possibility that some of the things as a kid could be something visiting from another dimension, and not necessarily like a ghost or an apparition or imagination? Like what?
Yeah.
Is there room for all of that?
There's all of it.
Okay. Yeah.
All of it and more. So and that's the thing, that we don't have that compass to navigate. So even as a child, I knew that I was, different in that way to a lot of the other kids. And I always wished and desired to have like a Merlin show up. I'm like, when is this Merlin character going to show up and teach me how to understand what it is that I'm seeing? I knew it was sort of some kind of, gift of magic. And I used to feel this magic within me as a young child, and try and practice, psychokinesis and, moving things with my brain and my mind and everything. Because to me, in other lifetimes, other realms, that was normal. Sort of like wishing a teacher would show up to show me how to work it in this realm, and to explain, what it was that I was seeing, whether it was ghost apparitions. Because as a child, you're told everything is the boogeyman, whether it's from kids or whether it's from movies, that things are aliens or the boogeyman, or, so I can't watch horror. I really can't. Just being, empathically sensitive, I just can't tap into that sort of energy.
So there are some negative energies that can come from those other dimensions. Because I mean, you talk about, if you've got marks on your body, or, potentially implants or something, are they necessarily good ones or bad ones?
So I was lucky, for me, that it was more part of like a hybrid monitoring program. So it was to check for, I guess, more that side of things, checking vitals, checking hormones. But with some people, they do have quite the negative experience. With my implant, it was, and I've got, so I had an X-ray for teeth, and he's like, I'll just get you to go check this out, because it's like a 3 to 4 centimeter disc that's in your sinuses. And what was interesting was, it was around that time where I received like skills upgrade. So just as you get like an iOS update.
What? And it was a CD-ROM?
Yeah, so it was like an old school
That's old
implant
school.
Yeah, no, it was more of like bio. A lot of them aren't like metal objects. Some of them are bio material, so that they're harmonized with the physical body.
Or your
So
body would just push it out anyway, yeah.
yeah, so I
Yeah.
actually zapped mine with an electrical device called an ENA, which puts out certain frequencies. So I had the MRI 7 days later, it was totally gone. But it was at that same window of time that I would wake up experiencing different ETs in white lab coats that were upgrading my senses. So, I woke up to a giant needle being pulled out of my eye and hearing
Beautiful.
ETs. She's waking up, she's waking up. But the weird thing was, you would imagine waking up to fear if you're thinking about it as a normal experience. To me, I'm laying in bed, there's white glowing lab coats, just radiating love. And I'm hearing the voice, she's waking up, she's waking up. As I'm coming back into full consciousness, I'm in this state of like love and bliss with this thing coming out my eye, and I'm just euphoric.
Not weird at all.
So, it was after that I noticed more of a change within my 3D depth perception. It was almost like having a camera upgrade, I guess you would say. And just, yeah.
It's nice to know that they stuff things up as well. Like, that's like a crappy surgeon. She's waking up. She's waking up. Lucky they had love around, because it's like, you boobs, what are you doing? Like,
that's so much better
to
than
wake up and it's fine.
And the love, bliss, euphoria is so much better than the anesthesia. You get headaches and have to detox from, and yeah. So there was.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. What were you going to say, Xavier?
Because you have that awareness already and understand what it all is. So I've heard, other stories from people like Dolores Cannon and things, when her people that she's put under have experienced going back and explaining what happened. They were so scared, or it got disguised as something else, so they didn't see because they didn't understand. So
yeah,
they've had a completely different experience with some things like that. But it was probably, it always is good intentions, but what you don't know, you're afraid of.
That's
so
right.
You have this beautiful feeling about it and aren't scared at all, and there's that love, but other people would just be shitting themselves.
Yeah. So even as a child, like when I had one regression in particular, looking back to why so much of my experiences were happening around age 4, I look up in the regression, and to me, I think because of fear, or because of being programmed from Hollywood and society and different things, you put a block up, or sometimes they will even be from an ET level. They'll put up a screen memory, or they will, do the flash. What is it, like in Men in Black?
Men in Black.
Well,
no, I didn't look. I want to remember this podcast.
So yeah, I guess there was some part of a memory and a feeling, and I remember, aspects of it. But during the regression, really got me to go into that experience and see what it was that I was looking at. I look up in the experience, there's these giant beings that look like ants that are over the top of me. And I didn't even know there was such a thing as ant beings, from a logical point of view. And then I go like connect the dots. Oh, and in the experience with the ant beings, they would come and visit regularly. My sister and I would talk about this cupboard that things would come out of that were inside the room. This is actually quite a common contact experience stories. They talk about things coming out of the wardrobe, coming out of the cupboards. Even now, I have to close my wardrobe, even though, there's not the fear and things that there was with being a child. And that's where the hypnotherapy really helps, on the regression side, that we're able to make sense of our experience and the contact. So for me, seeing these giant ant beings, what I was seeing was that they were actually teaching me about telepathy. They were teaching me about understanding different abilities, working with psychic training. So if you can imagine a child doing training, like with the Shapo blocks, where it's like you put the square into the square, you put the star into the star, and those little cubes where you put the shapes in. It's kind of like that, but like the basics, but ET 101 for psychic abilities, psychic skills. So I did have the teacher, I guess, show up, but just not in the Merlin physical sense of what I thought would happen. So for me, it brought so much healing to have that. And the cool thing that validated it for me is there's the Hopi tribes over in America talk about the ant people and the ant tribes, and they're called, I've gone blank on what they're called. it's got the word ant in the start of it as well, but they talk about these ant people actually taking them in and helping them when there was floods over there. They took them into underground caverns and saved them and taught them and fed them and nourished them. So it's just so interesting when you have these experiences and then you hear about it happening in different parts of the world. And that's what's amazing about other ET contact experiences. One of my gorgeous friends, he had the same ET experiences growing up. We're only a couple of years difference in age. And he and I were talking one day about, oh, you know, I came home and was laying in bed, and as a child there was this projector on the wall and I watched a whole movie from start to finish, this movie just being projected on my wardrobe. And you know, back in the 80s my parents never would have allowed TV in a room or anything like that, but I watched Lady and the Tramp from start to finish on my wardrobe. But then when I look into it, screen memory side of things, there was ET stuff happening at the same time, and that was just a nice way to calm and distract. So my friend had the same thing, and I'm like, I'd never heard of anyone having that projector experience, and he was having the ET contact the same.
I love that ETs have the same. They have the same tricks as parents. It's like, what do we do? Put Bluey on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it works.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's so interesting.
They use Bluey as well. They'll
luckily not. Luckily just the classics. Well, it was back in the 80s anyway.
Yeah, that was the Bluey then. That's fine.
Which also, yeah, the Bluey of the day, which explains, you know, why there's a lot of sometimes fear of clowns or fear of Santa, because sometimes they will use screen memory projection. So those are two of the main ones, and also owls are another one.
Just going to mention that. That's funny.
Yeah,
that's another. Fixes that they always used to say owls got put in, and all they remember is this bigger owl appeared out of nowhere. It's like, where did that come from? But that's not the actual memory. That was just thinking of that they put there to distract you while you're in some other dimension having aliens happen.
Yeah, so it's us essentially, you know, being an alien or ET and going, I'm just an owl. So when you look behind that in hypnotherapy, you actually see like the reality of what was happening. Mike McClellan has written a really good book on that as well, on how they will do, or how there's sightings of 4-foot owls, which when we look at it on a logic level, we're like, how can that be? Yeah. So yeah, one of my experiences was going for a ride on Santa's sleigh, although Santa's sleigh had revolving flashing lights around it. So when I look at that as a context in an adult, I'm like, well, that's a UFO, flashing lights going around. What were you going to say, Xavier?
Like, I just realized I had this reoccurring dream as a child for years, and it was a scary one about Santa and some axe murderer that used to chase me, and then my family would rock up on the Batmobile and stuff. But Santa was scary in that, and I just thought, holy crap, why was I having that dream for every night for years? It's a terrible.
Wow.
Interesting.
So is that often, if people have the same dreams, that's potentially a sign that it's a screen memory as well?
Yeah, I think there's so much to the dream world and reality. A great way to find out more information about what it's like to be an experiencer is Steven Spielberg did I like to call it a documentary. It's not
Star
a series. Yeah, well, that's a whole other story, but yeah, that's pretty accurate.
That's another podcast then. Wow.
Yeah, that's another podcast. But yeah, he did a series called Taken with Dakota Fanning, but it's through the eyes of an experiencer. And it talks about the interconnected nature. So some of my friends that I've met, the first time we've come into contact with each other, whether it's been like a dual vision or a dual memory or a sense of knowing each other, and it's not often from on this world. There's a sense of knowing each other off world, or from perhaps like ET experiences. And I've had friends see me in their ET experiences, and I've also seen them. So one friend, he talks about having seen me in certain experiences years ago, and he's like, when he has them now, he's like, you're in a different advanced class. He's like, you know, we're not sitting together in class, or, you know, me going into the dummy group and you going into the smart group. He goes, you're actually teaching now when I see you in these experiences. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, good. I graduated.
Congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I should probably have a party. But yeah, it's just the experiences and the commonality. There is a bleed through effect that comes into this physical reality. And I think that the more that we sort of look into that, or the more that we look into, where is that I know you from? You know, this kind of thing. So even with Xavier, even though we've only spoken online, you know, over video and things, there's just such a familiar sense of already knowing you, even from that first point of contact.
It's like, yeah, I definitely.
We even sort of spoke video. It's just, yeah, sometimes your soul knows before you know on the physical.
I think a lot of people could relate to that, where there's just no explanation why, but you see someone that's like, it's nearly like you're relieved to see them again. It's like, oh my gosh, you know, it's the first time you've met. It's strange.
Yeah.
Know what class I'm in, or am I teaching, or you know where we are. That'd be interesting.
we should get Michael to hypnotize us and we'll find out.
Don't get me to do it, because like from a spiritual level, I'm out on the oval smoking somewhere. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not even in class. I'm just like on the oval, just going.
Want to yet.
Probably in class.
He's in denial. He's in denial.
Etherical smoker, I am.
All the colours we were talking about before, Solreta, that makes so much sense of what he's going through right now. So he's just in denial.
Maybe I might have to talk a little bit off air.
Denial's a beautiful place too. It's a good place to smoke.
It is. So Solreta, does everybody have ET experiences and they don't know? Or do we all have a connection? Because I know people, my fiance, for example, like, so we're so interested and we're like, well, why, we would love you to come and talk to us. We'd like to remember an experience. We might ask before we go to sleep. We just feel like there's a strong connection, you know, like anyone who's interested in psychic stuff, they've got that history there. We're definitely interested in ETs. It's like we haven't had any obvious experiences that we can recall in person that we remember. So we'd love, like, does it happen to everybody or just select people? Are we all connected to them?
Yeah, so I think this is where it's good to look into, you know, like family lines, heritage, all this sort of thing, and cognitive dissonance, because sometimes it'll come through a family line and you have siblings that maybe witness, you know, crafts fly over at the same time. So I had one of my gorgeous siblings, you know, witness 5 craft fly over, and the next day they called me, they're like, oh, I know you have, you know, like you believe in certain things and that. And I'm like, we filmed our belief on camera. So that's where like cognitive dissonance comes in. And it doesn't mean that, you know, that we're in different categories or anything when it comes to, but it's more that my energy is attuned to those certain things. And I think sometimes when there is a mind wipe, you know, Men in Black mind wipe or something, maybe perhaps not everyone's ready to deal with that information or that reality all at once. So I think that's one thing going on. I think some are perhaps like, if we look in terms of dimensionality, I think some of us are a little bit more multidimensional or operating on different spectrums or different realms, whereas some are more sort of, they could have things walk past them and they don't see it. Like I've been out there sky watching, and one of my friends, we were, you know, in a park and we're seeing a UFO fly over in broad daylight, and her husband's like, I don't see it. Where? It was right there. So yeah, sometimes not everyone.
So this is where science can't always catch up, because it's not always on a level that you're going to be able to see. Yeah, some scientifically
people just into it, and you know, it's not important information. That's what I was talking before about. You know, really getting the brain wired up that way. So when we start to have all those little neurons wired together, and we're telling them this stuff's important information, we form really strong neural networks and new brain synapses that are geared to that reality.
So you have on your website, and we're going to have that in the show notes as well, because there's going to be people suddenly. It's not even for you, it's for everyone listening going, what in the hell just happened to my brain? Or they're going to go, oh my God, that makes so much sense now.
It's around me.
Your website, you've got that you do reading. So that's what a reading is really. You're looking at auras, you could be looking at ET communication, that sort of thing. You do all of that sort of thing that people need.
So I pretty much look into like the quantum field around someone. So we're looking into their quantum potential. We can look into different, I guess the same as in, you know, we can look into work, look into love, look into different things like that, and sort of see what energy is around. So I'll start out with the aura drawing like we held up before, and describe and talk about or translate the language of the colors into where they're at then we'll talk with spirit, and we'll also do some tarot cards. So I pick the cards face down from my favorite deck. And then when spirit says, all right, you can turn them over. And so much of the time, what we've drawn on the paper matches up with the cards.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time it's the same message. And then we'll pick clarifying cards. So my most popular sessions are my 2-hour sessions, because it gives people the chance to ask a lot of the questions that they've been interested in. Sometimes I'll even have, where I've had on some few occasions, a 3-hour session where, clients I've read for in the past have had 2-hour sessions, and they're like, I really would like just that extra little bit. And it might be whether it's to do with just wanting to find out about how they can operate and work with their own psychic abilities and different things, because we do get unique information to the person, to the client. So everyone operates so differently, and that's why I learn so much every day. But yeah, I do the 1 hour and half-hour session, but the 2-hour really does give, if someone is an ET contact experiencer, I definitely recommend the 2-hour session if you want to look into certain things or certain connections or certain I guess things that happen. So for some of my experiences, I've drawn them on board a craft. One of them I remember really stands out. I drew an aura drawing, and I said, I'm getting shown a vision of you on a craft, and you're in this tank with this bioluminescent type energy, or like a light or phosphorescence type light in the tank with you. And I said, they're going around your body and doing repair work. And I spoke about the ETs that were around. She's like, I've not told anyone about that experience. And she's like, that is exactly what happened to me.
Wow.
So we're able to dive in and go, right, why did this experience happen? What is it that we can take away from it? How can we utilize this in the physical reality? Because that's the thing with ET experiences, they're amazing. And, but you are left wondering sometimes on a 3D level, what is this for? Or how can I use this? What is the vital part of the information I need to look into? So it does help in that way too, to have a reading, to look at where we can apply these new gifts that we're being given, or these experiences.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but I do readings as well, looking at, the other day I had one to look into moving countries, and we pick different cards for different states or different countries, and we compare the energy of that to the energy of where we're currently at. And when we flip the cards, it'll talk about whether it's the energy of the city or the people or the job. So yeah, I still do normal everyday 3D things too.
How people make decisions with that bit of that more confidence and clarity of support and what it might look like. Yeah,
and I think that's a great way to frame it, is that it's more giving them confidence, or sometimes showing them a different perspective that they hadn't opened up to, and it just helps to make the decision process easier, or to look into things that it might come up on an energy level.
Awesome.
Yeah, great. And look, a lot of us need that help where our mind gets in the way, and there's hundreds of different options, and then in our mind we think about, sometimes it's good to get someone to get you more in touch with that more subtle energy behind a decision.
And it's a neutral, nice. That neutral point of view too can really just help provide clarity and confirmation for the clients.
Beautiful. There's so many other questions, and I'm not sure if we just need to have you back.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. Is it okay if we drag you back on it?
Yeah, I would love to come back anytime, guys. This has been so much fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it as well. Well, thank you so much, Solreta. It's been so much fun. Your energy is just amazing, and I think some minds have just been expanded. I know ours have, and it's so interesting to learn so much about just realms and things we just wouldn't have understood. And I think you've answered, I'm just sort of, I always pick up on the people's reactions when they're listening, what they're thinking right now, even though this will be in the future. So I'm seeing people's questions, and they're going, wow, I've had those kind of experiences before, and that answers so many questions. Or other people are just gone, drop mic, I'm walking out the room because I don't know what the hell just happened.
So cool.
Yeah,
I love
it. It feels beautiful. So they have questions. So I encourage anybody who's listening or watching to send through your questions for the next episode. Because I know I've got some. I know Daniel wanted me to ask some, but we didn't even get anywhere near there yet. So we need to ask some more questions and find out some more things. about.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
So
And
much
people can catch you on your YouTube channel as well, which we'll have in the show notes, because you interview a lot of wonderful, incredible people as well. And it's just good to see the kind of content you put out. So if you've enjoyed this podcast, you're going to love all the other things that Solreta does as well.
Yes. Live
Thank
readings
you.
and things. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
That's it for another episode, but that doesn't have to be the end of the conversation.
Feel free to leave your comments on our YouTube channel, or for those podcast listeners, you can email us at mickandthepsychic@gmail.com to leave your feedback or questions.
I'm a certified hypnotherapist and timeline regression therapist. If you wish to contact me to explore the source of an issue you're facing, just book a session at hearnhypnosis.com.au and include the promo code MATP for 10% off. You can contact me on Insta and Facebook at hearnhypnosis.
Check out my website at optimisticxavier.com.au if you feel you'd like to connect with me as a psychic medium, spiritual mentor, or intuitive coach. Include the promo code MATP for 10% discount. You can also find me on Insta, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
We look forward to connecting with you again next time as we attempt to leave no stone unturned.
Bye.
All right, cool. I reckon that should be okay.